Hey guys, it's NerdGasm, back with yet another superhero game review, and I am expecting to piss off quite a few people with this one. Injustice 2 is an amazing game. Just like the original, it's one of the best superhero titles in the genre. That said, I have had very mixed feelings about it since its release. In many ways, it blows the original game out of the water, but in some others, I found it to be quite disappointing, or at least went in a lot of wrong directions, but we will get to all of that in a bit. Just like the first game, Injustice 2 was developed by NetherRealm Studios and directed by Ed Boon, co-creator of the Mortal Kombat franchise, and its roots in that series are apparent. The gameplay is quite similar, minus all of the intense violence and gore of course. In Injustice 2, the gameplay was tweaked slightly from the previous installment. You still have light, medium, and strong attacks, signature character trait moves that can be activated with the press of a button, super moves and the ability to increase their damage by spending some of your super meter, and even clashes, which I failed to mention in my previous review, that allow you to regain some health by offering up more of your super meter than your opponent to win. In the first game they were kind of silly sometimes, but here they are made far more epic because they are so up close and personal. New additions made to Injustice 2 include evasive rolls and mid-air recoveries that help you in times of need, when you're getting your ass handed to you by your opponent. Some environmental attacks can also be dodged as well, which were completely unblockable in the first game. Characters that were featured in the original Injustice have the same combos and animations to their moves, so it doesn't feel like you're starting from the ground up again. It gets you familiar with the gameplay right away. Every character does have a new special move though, and some of them in this game are really kick-ass. The combat system and overall gameplay mechanics found in Injustice 2 are far superior to the first game. They feel so much more responsive, refined, and it plays like a dream. I love it. In terms of gameplay, Injustice 2 is the better game of the series. As of right now, that's if they make another. Problem is, like I said at the beginning, some things about this game went in the wrong direction. Case in point, the gear system. NetherRealm wanted to implement a role-playing game-like progression system into Injustice 2. Much like popular multiplayer shooting games, they wanted leveling up, character customization and personalization, loot and equipable gear to be a big part of the experience. You now had the ability to improve each character's base stats: health, strength, defense, and ability. Ability affects a character's special attack and super moves, in case you were wondering. After each fight, and when you gain enough experience, you have random loot drops that happen, sometimes giving you rare gear that can only be worn once the character reaches a certain level. Some gear provides additional boosts, such as increased experience or in-game currency earned, unique visual effects, a bunch of different stuff. The types of gear can be worn on the head, torso, arms, legs, and sometimes an additional accessory as well. Various mother boxes are earned as you play, or are obtained after completing certain challenges and act as loot boxes, containing rarer gear, depending on the level of mother box you open. You can spend in-game currency known as source crystals to purchase color schemes and even additional costumes for each character, and spend real-world money to achieve everything I mentioned faster, even level up your characters to level 30, the highest in the game, with a push of a button. Now there is a lot more to this gear system than what I am mentioning, a lot more intricacies, but I don't really care to explain it anymore. I hate this system. I think it's a complete mess, and it tarnishes the overall enjoyment of Injustice 2 in a big way. Having these RPG and multiplayer shooter-like progression systems in a game like this was very misguided, and comes down to simply being a greedy cash grab. This game is a huge sellout, in my opinion. It's uglier than the first game, hard to swallow, and still leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. I have no want to personalize these characters. Most of the gear I obtained looked stupid, worse than their default costumes, regardless of the special effects they contained. I don't play many fighting games, I'm not a fan of the genre, nor am I a fan of multiplayer games because online gaming is something I try to avoid like the plague. It's just not for me. Games that focus primarily on the online aspect become paperweights in a few short years because servers get shut down and no one continues playing them. Their shelf life is a lot shorter than games that focus on single-player experiences. Those are the ones you can still play in 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Now, Injustice 2 does have a lengthy story, which we will get to in a second, but I'm just saying that because I'm not a huge fan of online multiplayer, fighting games, RPGs, a lot of the Gear system stuff was pointless to me. It didn't serve much of a purpose. I thought all of these features drastically overcomplicated this game, and because of it, I think my enjoyment of Injustice 2 burnt out a lot faster than it did with Injustice 1, even though this one had better gameplay, a much larger and stronger character roster, so much eye candy to take in. The story of Injustice 2 takes place 5 years after the fall of Superman and his One-Earth regime. Batman and his allies, the Insurgency, try to pick up the pieces of this power vacuum, though globally, governments and even military are still being established and are recuperating, slowly. Taking advantage of this fact is Gorilla Grodd, forming a new alliance of supervillains known as the Society, in the hopes of taking over the world. What else?
Today, we show the world that we are superior. Today, we bring anyone who would dare stand against us to their knees!
Low self-esteem, not that guy's problem.
Grodd is simply a pawn though, as the real mastermind behind the Society is the alien Brainiac. His true intentions are to find and capture the last surviving Kryptonian, Kal-El. Brainiac is a collector of worlds, and has amassed a collection of various locations from various planets, spanning all across the universe. He values knowledge, and once he has obtained it, he destroys the target planet in order to make that knowledge all the more valuable. Brainiac was the one responsible for destroying Krypton all those years ago, and up until recently believed he was the only one with its knowledge, that no other Kryptonians existed. Now that he knows one does, he has made it his mission to eliminate them, and while he's at it, why not add the knowledge of Earth to his collection? I mean, it possesses advanced technology. Brainiac likey. Now you're probably asking yourself, why the hell would the Society ally themselves with Brainiac if he's just gonna destroy the world? There wouldn't be a planet for them to rule once everything is said and done. But their purpose is mainly a distraction for the heroes, and besides, they are kept in the dark in regards to what Brainiac has in store for the planet. The only member of the team who knows what's up is its leader, Gorilla Grodd, who only values serving Brainiac and couldn't care less about the humans in the end. Anyways, due to the immense threat of Brainiac, his alliance with the Society, and the inevitability of Earth's destruction, Batman and the Insurgency are forced to ally themselves with the remnants of the regime, going so far as releasing Superman from his prison cell in order to stand a chance against the invading Coluan and his forces. I think Brainiac is a great villain for Injustice 2, and his appearance in it is one of the strongest outside of the comic books, at least in my opinion. Not enough people are talking about it. He's voiced by Jeffrey Combs, who's played countless characters in various Marvel and DC animated projects over the years. Kite Man, The Leader, Question, and most notably, the Scarecrow in the new Batman Adventures. What a terrifying portrayal that was. Brainiac is a brilliant character, literally, and makes sense as the antagonist of a story like this, forcing two opposing sides to come together for one goal, to save the Earth. He has that main event level feel to him. I think his depiction in this game is well done, film quality, and a lot of other villains who weren't featured in the first game get their time to shine in the spotlight as well. Mind you, he's not as strong of a villain as Superman was in the first game, that's obvious, but then again I was expecting that, it was inevitable, bound to happen. This game is called Injustice, and it is set entirely in the alternate universe, featuring the regime and the insurgency. So right from the get-go, the writing is already having to pick up the pieces from the events of that game. It's set in this reality so the gameplay can make sense, have heroes battling villains, as well as other heroes. Problem is, making all of these characters protagonists in a way is hard to do. You're forced to course correct a lot of their motivations and reasoning behind switching sides. Some are done pretty good like The Flash, while others feel very forced at times like Aquaman, and even Green Lantern to an extent. He states that he has earned the trust of the Guardians again, and has fought his way back to being able to wear the green ring. That's fine. But because it's all stuff we don't get to see, events that happen off-screen, it doesn't feel as genuine and believable as it could be, unfortunately. Throughout the game, some of these characters still act the way they did before, which makes it really hard to get behind them, even if the fate of the world is at stake. Like Aquaman straight up kills and finishes off Gorilla Grodd at one point. It's tough to really care about these characters when they commit villainous actions like that. Superman is the best example of this. The game tries to redeem him a little bit, give you a sense that the Justice League could possibly be a thing again, that he could somehow change his ways. But even if he did, that wouldn't mean anything. He's too far gone. Even saving the world from Brainiac means diddly dick when you've killed and enslaved so many people before, and will just do it again. Superman, Wonder Woman, even Black Adam, it's impossible to right their wrongs. They are irredeemable as characters, and just because they are forced to ally with Batman to stop a threat, doesn't mean you care about them any more than you did before. At least I didn't, at all. I couldn't. But again, this is the state of your story. Whether it was Brainiac or Darkseid or the Anti-Monitor, it would have remained the same. The side of your protagonist is in complete shambles, and the former villains of the previous games are having to be refitted as heroes a little bit, and it just doesn't work when everything is said and done. Now the story is all about the insurgency and regime being forced to put aside their differences to stop Brainiac, and after he's defeated, the inevitability that the war will start back up again, just like before. I get that. But what I'm trying to say is that you aren't as engaged with this story as much as you were in the first game, because the characters in it, the members of the regime, which now make up a decent chunk of the heroes you play as, just aren't as relatable. You don't care about them. And in a story like this, I feel you need to, at least more than you do in its present state. Again, in order for the gameplay to work and make sense, they had to set the story in the alternate universe, and that's the logical choice. It's the easiest to write. The foundation is already there. If they set it in the regular one, you would have the entire Justice League at your disposal, but at that point, there aren't any evil heroes. The whole Injustice title wouldn't work anymore. So maybe the developers kind of dug themselves a hole with that a bit. I don't know. I should mention that another big focus of Injustice 2's story centers around the introduction of Kara Zor-El, Supergirl. She had escaped the destruction of Krypton thanks in part to her mother, and was sent to Earth with Kal-El to act as his protector, but her pod was knocked off course, and she was trapped in some form of suspended animation until now. Wonder Woman and Black Adam intend on making her another member of the regime, with powers mirroring that of Superman, but Kara is hesitant, especially when she learns the truth behind her cousin's heinous actions. Supergirl acts as the voice of reason in this game, trying to bring Superman back to the side of good, reminding him what his family's symbol represents. But like I had previously mentioned, even with the planet in danger, it's hard to really stand by this thought process. This Superman is a lost cause. He's killed way too many people. The biggest question I have with this game and its story is why Batman didn't just bring over the Superman from the regular universe to fight Brainiac instead of letting out the evil one. He brings over Green Arrow and Black Canary, but to my knowledge, the game doesn't address the other reality any further, which is odd. Why not bring over the entire Justice League instead of just Green Arrow and Black Canary? That avoids you having to let out such an immense threat like the evil Superman. Now you can suspend your disbelief, it is just a game, but if one thing like this kind of unravels the entirety of your story, of the conflict, then that's not good. Again, to my knowledge, I don't think the game addresses the Superman from the other reality. Maybe the comics did, I don't know, I never read them. But it seemed like such a simple solution, and makes a lot of Injustice 2's story feel kind of senseless and disposable as a result. Biggest reason why they probably ignored it though, was because that would have made it too similar to the original game, which had that Superman save the day, so I understand. Injustice 2 has a great story. It's flawed, but it can be entertaining. I just don't think it's as solid as Injustice 1's. Speaking of alternate universes and realities, Injustice 2 has a new mode called the Multiverse, and in it, you can take on various challenges in parallel worlds that add specific stipulations to your fights. Different handicaps, different modifiers, there's a lot of different stuff in here. Some of the challenges get really difficult, so this is where getting stronger gear for your characters would make sense and help you out, especially in the Legendary Multiverse, which cranks the level of the challenges up to 11. I think content-wise it's a lot better than the battle mode and Star Labs challenges found in the first game, but due to my distaste for the whole gear system, I didn't play a whole heck of a lot of the Multiverse mode, sorry to say. The character roster in Injustice 2 is far superior to the first games. I think that's something most of us can agree on. You have a lot of the main players from the original, sporting much better designs might I add, and some of the new characters include Atrocitus, Deadshot, Captain Cold, Gorilla Grodd, Dr. Fate, and Swamp Thing, one of my personal favorites. If you factor in the DLC, which brought in additional characters like Darkseid, Black Manta, The Atom, Enchantress, Hellboy, Red Hood, and all 4 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then it's safe to say that this roster is fucking stacked. And that's not including the somewhat hidden alternate outfits for some of the characters too, that give you even more people to play as. Bizarro, Mr. Freeze, Power Girl, Jon Stewart, Reverse Flash, and so much more. In total, factoring in all of this, Injustice 2's roster is close to 50, at least I think. That's crazy. So many more characters than in the original. Being that he is my second favorite villain, I better discuss Scarecrow real quick. He was a new addition to the game, and the way they handled him was pretty damn cool. His appearance is similar to the one found in Batman Begins, and before each battle, he fills the area with fear toxin, which transforms him into a monstrous scarecrow that his opponent would see in their nightmares. This idea is brilliant, and gives the perfect context for him to look like that, allowing the developers to go wild on his design. He's voiced by Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger himself, so that is really cool too, gives him a very creepy vibe. I have seen a few people online list this Scarecrow as being the best there has ever been, but I still think the one in Arkham Knight is far superior. I like the concept and design of Scarecrow in Injustice 2, but the one in Arkham Knight is far more memorable in my opinion. His design in that game was incredible.
It's okay to be afraid.
All in all, I still enjoy Injustice 2, but if it wasn't for that story mode, I would not have bought it. Every time I pop this game in, I am reminded of how much of a sellout it was, how dissatisfied I was with a lot of it. So many characters left at level 1, full gear inventories that I didn't want to spend the time managing, hundreds of mother boxes left unopened because the whole gear system can go fuck itself in my opinion. Injustice 2 is a very mixed bag with me. The story isn't as good as the first games, but it's still pretty damn decent. It can stand alongside it. And the gameplay is very polished, not to mention the graphics are obviously better. Those 3 aspects make Injustice 2 a superior game to the original. That said, the gear system is a mess, and the immense focus on it was a bad decision by the developers. Though honestly, it was probably the suits that made it, wanting money. It overcomplicates everything, and while Injustice 2 plays better than Injustice 1, I feel it's going to age a lot worse in time, especially when the servers get shut down. Wait 10 years, 20 years. I bet you more people will be still talking about Injustice 1 than Injustice 2. It accomplished a hell of a lot more.
Think you'll ever love again? Maybe you won't kill your next family.
This has been NerdGasm. Don't hate me if you love this game, these are just my own personal opinions on it. I want to stress once more that I enjoy Injustice 2, I just feel it's very flawed, really everything to do with the gear system. Outside of that, it's great. If you enjoyed my review, I want to thank you for watching, and if it didn't piss you off too much, feel free to subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of future content. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.
Bonded with Brainiac's ship.
Brainiac is dead. The remaining cities have been restored, and just like I told you, Earth is at peace.
Under your heel.
I wish you'd come around, Kara. I'm building a new army to protect the Earth. There are billions of warriors trapped in Brainiac's collection. Kryptonians, Daxamites, Zarnians. I'll have a legion whose power rivals the combined Lantern Corps. And I want you to lead it with me.
Never, Cal.
You'll either make the right choice, or I'll make it for you. What's it going to be?